Servus, my Harley friends. Welcome to another episode of Stefan's Garage, or to another video of Stefan's Garage. Today we are talking about fork overhaul or rebuild for those conventional Harley Davidson forks. 2014 Rushmore touring up to present Milwaukee 8 tourings, and as well Milwaukee 8 Softails with a conventional fork. So this applies to basically all those fork types. When would I recommend to do this? My personal limit is around 20,000 miles or 30,000 K. When I do a wilbers upgrade, I don't just change the oil and the springs, I change the bushings and the fork seals as well, and check that all the hardware is still in good shape. You can extend it definitely a little longer, but I want to make sure that customers traveling to my place from far away won't have any issues with leaking fork seals when they got the wilbers upgrade. So stay tuned, I show you the tools we need, and then we're gonna open up the fork leg. So first of all, we need the right quantity and viscosity of fork oil for your application. Then we need a fork rebuild kit, so that's one per fork leg, and all those parts already down here are in that fork rebuild kit. They're pretty expensive. I only use genuine Harley Davidson stuff to make sure that the fitment is correct. We need a 49 millimeter fork seal tool. We need a 19 millimeter Allen, a long 12 millimeter Allen, pair of scissors, and the bag that contains all those parts, and we just take the scissors to get this very special tool. You will see later on what this is for. Of course, we need an impact, a lot of brake cleaner. So now we have a bike on the lift. Left hand fork leg is already removed. On those touring Harleys, both fork legs are identical. And here we have the fork leg. We're gonna open it up soon. And today's donor of the fork leg, Larry. Welcome to the garage, Larry.
Thank you, sir.
And now
Glad to be here.
Larry is going to be the cameraman. Let's turn this over. Make sure that you get your fingers inside the lens, because that's basically what I do all the time.
Yeah, sticking the fingers in front of it. Yeah.
So to do the full service, we need to take the 12 mil Allen and just loosen the bottom nut here. So, and now you see why you need a long 12 mil Allen. Just loosening it. It is now loose, and just screw it in hand tight that you don't leak oil at the moment. Now we turn it around. We take the 19 mil Allen. And now be careful, because there's of course spring tension or pressure. I have the leather glove. Just put on a little weight, not too much, so not excessive weight, because then you will have the opposite effect. Just a little bit to stop it from flying around. And on those twin cam those twin cam Rushmore forks, there is not much pressure on the fork. So Milwaukee 8 forks will be basically the same, just the size of those preload tubes or fork springs is different, but it's the same architecture inside the fork. We drain the old fork oil after 50,000 kilometers. It is overdue and the seals are already a little bit wet, so just in time to change it. And now the last thing before we concentrate on cleaning, we need to get the damping tube out of the fork. And now you see why we loosened this screw before, because now we can get the damping tube, the rebound, no, not the rebound, the top out spring out of it. So now we have to separate those two halves. Maybe Larry can get a little bit closer, because first of all we need to remove this snap ring here, which is securing the fork seal.
Try to be a good cameraman here.
You are. Definitely better than I would be on my own. So. And now you could warm up this part, but on the touring forks it is basically not necessary. And now we just separate the two parts. So before cleaning it, we need to get the oil stop, which is still inside the fork slider. So this thing is very important for later. And now we remove the old parts. We remove the old fork seal, the washer, and the two fork bushings, which are definitely worn. You see, those are just snapped onto the fork tube. So now we're going to clean this stuff and then we are back in business. So the fork slider is already cleaned. Make sure that you remove the old copper crush washer. And there you go. Those tend to stick inside the fork, and there's a new one provided with the fork rebuild kit.
So let's start again.
Okay, let's keep it running.
Okay.
So we might have some fingers in here, so only very mild wear and a little bit of surface rust. And we're going to remove that with a 3M red scratch pad, as I just learned.
Pad. Yeah.
Surface is
We also
looking.
call them sanding pads.
Sanding pads, yeah, but sanding pads might be a little bit too rough for this. Okay, and then we are done. We can focus on reassembling everything. Very important on those things to separate the old stuff from the new stuff in order to not get confused or forget something. Kannst laufen lassen. So we start with the inner bushing. Just carefully slide it over, lubricate it a little bit. Let's just put this away for a second. We stay here. And now we On the damping tube, we have this plastic, I don't think it's a seal, but remember those openings are facing to the top of the tube if we hold it like this.
Right.
There's almost no wear with those, but they are provided within the rebuild kit. Just make sure that the orientation of those grooves is correct, facing to the top. Then the top out spring. If you happen to have a very cheap former accident Harley, be very careful, because all those forks, they can be mixed between each other. And I've seen parts between Twin Cam Rushmore and Milwaukee 8 all mixed together, and of course they are not going to work. So if it's your genuine Harley, nobody has worked on it, you are safe. So damping tube, top out spring. Now we need the fork spring, the preload bushing, just temporary. Very important, the oil stop needs to go in first, and you see those grooves here on top. They need to perfectly fit the inner side of the fork slider. To make sure that they fit, I have a small screwdriver. You see? Now they are perfectly together. And now the new lower screw, the new copper crush ring. And Harley recommends to put on some thread sealant. I normally don't do that, but for YouTube, of course I do. The copper ring is enough to seal the lower part of the fork. I've never had any forks leaking oil with a new copper crush ring. So, and now kannst ein bisschen näher kommen, because it is very hard to apply the correct torque onto that screw. Therefore, I make sure that the thread is engaged, which it is now. This is Ölungsschutz. And then we give it a little hit with the impact. So we are sure that the copper ring is crushed and we have enough torque. We will check it later on with the torque wrench, but the whole assembly might spin inside, so it's very difficult to apply the correct torque. Now we turn it around. We remove the preload sleeve and the spring. It's just to have a little bit of pressure here. And now we continue with the second bushing, and those Schlitz, what's Schlitz? Gap. The gap.
The gap.
The gap. I will orient the gap towards the inside of the fork, because by braking, this area is, of course, I'm missing the word, mehr belastet?
More stress.
More stressed, thank you.
Yeah.
So this area is more stressed than this area because there's the wheel inside, and therefore the gap will be oriented towards the inside. Put on the washer and very gently should have oiled it before. just as a force of habit. But I'm just too nervous with the camera. About that far. And now the new fork seal. On those genuine Harley seals, you see one area with those dots and the other one where you can see the spring here. The one with the dots need to face upward. So just oil the lip a little bit. And now we need the special tool that we have made before in order to protect the seal. So just put this on top. Too tight here on top. No, it's good. And now slide the plastic bag with the fork seal down.
Oh, I see.
So, should there be any rock chips up here that might damage the seal, or here putting it over, it is protected. And once again, a little tap. Until you see the groove that seats the snap ring. And now, carefully insert the snap ring, and you should hear, like on Jagd auf Rote Oktober, what was it?
Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for Red October, just a single bing. You heard it?
Yeah.
So, this is done. Now we're going to refill the oil to the specified amount regarding your suspension provider. With Wilbers, on this application, it's oil level 110 with a fully collapsed fork. And we need to bleed the fork. Maybe you can see it. So this is not bleeded. Bled, thank you. And now you hold it down here, because I'm creating a vacuum.
Oh, I see.
And we are now forcing oil into all the cavities that we cleaned. And now you can let go. We lost around 10 centimeters by bleeding the oil, so bleeding the fork. Bleeding the fork is very important to have the correct oil level later on. So as I said, fork leg fully collapsed. For this application 110. Please double check. And now we suck out the extra oil, shouldn't be much. Yeah, exactly. As almost every Harley touring has 110 with Wilbers, my eyesight is wrong.
No, your eyesight, your
is pretty calibrated to 110.
yeah, that's actually correct. That's correct. Eyesight is calibrated absolutely perfect.
So now the Wilbers fork spring, progressive end facing the top. It's a little bit shorter than the stock Harley one, but it's stiffer, better material, and of course surface treated, zero friction. Remember not to forget the washer. Now the last of the old parts that we still have is this O-ring, as well provided in the rebuild kit. And now the old trick, finding the beginning of the fine thread, labeling it, and now we continue with the spacer. Okay, as it is on camera, and the Rushmore forks are not that stiff. Okay, kannst du zur Seite gehen?
Okay.
Kannst du komplett zur Seite gehen? I give it a try whether I can use it just by bare hands. Which is not going to happen. So we're going to edit that out. Maybe a second try before we use the tools. And this is the category of please hold my beer.
Oh, okay. Watch this.
Watch this, exactly. Nope.
All right.
We need to have the tool.
I have it.
And I need to...
Yeah, hold my beer. Watch this.
Watch this, yeah. Okay. Kannst du wieder zur Seite gehen? Be extremely careful, because if you slip off, then you might hurt yourself. Probably the other one will be on first attempt, but we're not going to have this on video. Third attempt, not too bad. Now last part, clean everything, torque down the top nut and the bottom nut.
What can I do? Can I hold it or?
Yeah, you have to assist me pretty soon.
I have it.
Just no traces of adding markings to be found on the fork. Torque specifications for the top nut, according to the Harley service manual, between 30 and, drum roll, 80 Newton meters. So it's completely ridiculous to have torque specs that far. So we go for 45. With this simple oil filter tool. And the torque specs for the lower one are between 40 and 50. So the 45 that we still have are good as well. Just flip it around, please. And now the whole assembly might spin inside the fork. That's the reason why we used the impact in the first place. Yeah, definitely turning. Maybe you can push down a little bit to have that we have more. No, we're not gonna reach it. We are. But it's not as exact as the other way as the fork tube is turning. But at least it is tight enough that it's not leaking and not too tight, so we are not damaging the thread. So, give it a quick check. Yep, feels good. Second one is copy-paste. Okay. So, as I said, first one is done. On those bikes, both fork legs are identical. So the inside is identical, of course, not the fork slider, but it's the same work for the other side. And how to get those out, I have lots of videos with every specific Harley. So check that out if you don't know how to remove the fork legs. This was just the fork rebuild. And now we're gonna focus on the rest of the Wilbers install on this beautiful Street Glide Special. Thanks for watching and see you soon.